from what I understand, the sole reason you think he's doing a good job is he's willing to operate in a school district that is underfunded. Is that fair?
What I'm saying is that the struggle of doing so takes one that's willing to give of themselves.
Okay.
And that is what he does. And it's a huge struggle.
Okay, why is it a struggle?
Well, that's like trying to operate your home without the funds to do the things that you need to do.
Is that the only problem?
I don't know. I would say that's the biggest.
Have you ever identified any, well, to back up, when you say that that's the biggest problem, you'll agree with me that that also means that there are other problems, fair?
Any school district will have problems. I mean, that's normal. That exists.
Okay. So let's talk about whistleblowers against Keith Posley. Are you aware of any whistleblowers against Keith Posley?
No.
No. Okay. How about complaints against Keith Posley? Are you aware of any complaints against Keith Posley?
Check the form questions, broad and vague, also not relevant to this case. Go ahead and answer if you can. Go ahead.
I would say that I do not know of those.
Okay. Do you know who Calvin Fermin is?
Yes,
Okay. Who's Calvin Fermin?
he was an employee of the district.
In fact, he was the deputy superintendent, wasn't he?
Yes,
Okay. And as deputy superintendent, he served under the superintendent, correct?
yes,
Okay. And Calvin Fermin left the district, is that right?
yes.
And when he left the district, he made a complaint against Keith Posley, right?
He made, he sent a letter.
He sent a letter.
There was nothing formal,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
And you knew what was in that letter, right?
To some degree, yes.
Okay. And you believe what's in that letter does not constitute a complaint, is that fair?
I'm going to object to the form questions, broad and vague. She's also testified that it was not a formal complaint, so she's answered the question. Go ahead and answer again if you can.
It was not a formal complaint.
Great. Can you, well, I'll just back up there. Did you ever hear me ask a question about a formal complaint?
No, but what I'm saying is that if he came and testified about anything, that I would consider a formal complaint.
Okay, and I appreciate that answer, but that's not really responsive to the question that I'm asking you. We're not talking just about formal complaints, we're talking about any kind of complaints. Do you understand that?
I'm going to object to the form questions, broad and vague. You didn't define complaint when you asked her the question previously, so she understood it to be a formal complaint. If you want to change the question, that's fine, but don't misinterpret her testimony.
Can you answer the question, please?
Again, I'll say that it was not a formal complaint. People could write complaints about me. If it's formal, then I have to take it as gospel.
Okay. So, we'll just go back then and re-ask these questions with that framework in mind. Are you aware of any complaints, formal or otherwise, against Keith Posley?
For the most, I would say no, because the letter from Calvin was simply an email.
Okay. So, is it the format of the transmission that makes it formal or non-formal?
Check the form of question, broad and vague. Go ahead and answer if you can.
Again, in that case, I can't remember any cases other than that one, and that one covered a lot of people. It did. So.
Oh, okay. What were the complaints that Calvin Fermin made?
It was just general things that he thought were issues that he wrote about.
Great. What were those general issues that he wrote about?
I would say at this time, it's privilege between clients and counsel.
What does that mean?
I'm going to step in here. If in fact there was an attorney that provided you with information regarding Mr. Fermin's complaints or emails, conversations between you, the board, and the attorney are privileged, so I would object to attorney-client privilege if that's what you believe the conversations to be.
Correct.
Can you repeat my question, please?
Yes. I'll read a couple or it won't make sense. Question, okay, what were those general issues that he wrote about? Answer, I would say at this time it's privileged between clients and counsel. Question, what does that mean?
It means exactly that.
It means it's privileged. Okay.
Can you
why
say
do you-
yes or no instead of?
Yes.
Thank you.
And why do you believe it's privileged?
Again, I'm going to object to this question because if it's conversations about what Mr. Fermin wrote and the conversation is between the board and the board's attorney, it's attorney-client privilege.
Sure.
In addition,
Mhm.
these questions are subject to a pending motion for protective order. And at some point in time, I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer these because they're beyond the scope of what I believe the protective order should be, although the court has not ruled on it yet, so.
Okay, so let's just repeat the question here, and hopefully we can not have a speaking objection and we can get an answer to that question, but we'll see what happens.
Question, and why do you believe it's privileged?
Again, I'm going to object to the form of the question. It's privileged. For the various reasons I just discussed, I'm going to instruct you not to answer.
Okay. Great. Let's show you Exhibit 3 here.
Okay, I'll just stick on that.
Can you identify Exhibit 3, please?
Why don't you let me take a look at it first?
I sure will. Do you see this document?
Yes.
Okay. And I see it as an email from Calvin Fermin to Jacqueline Mann. Is that right?
Sorry about the front page.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and who's Jacqueline Mann?
She's chief of Office of Board Governance.
Well, in fact, she's no longer the chief, right?
She's still under contract.
Okay. Is she performing that job?
At the present time, she's on leave.
Why is she on leave?
Just the form questions, broad and vague. Also, I'm going to instruct her not to answer at this point in time because I think it's beyond the scope of this deposition, as well as we have a protective order out there that has not been ruled on, so I'm instructing her not to answer. It has nothing to do with this case.
So I heard relevance. And as you well know, Chris, relevance is not a grounds to instruct a witness not to
I
answer a question.
also said, if you were listening, Ben, that we have an outstanding motion for protective order that would cover this if granted. So therefore, I instruct her not to answer this question. If in fact the court or the judge rules that she has to answer it, she'll come back and answer it.
There's no protective order about Jackie Mann in any stretch of the imagination,
There
Chris.
is a protective order out there that indicates that there should no issue should be gotten into in other than the issues that involve probable cause in this case. This has nothing to do with Ms. Folaron's case.
Okay, and I appreciate you answering that question and to the affirmative that you are
So
instructing
I'm
this
instructing
witness
her
not to answer only on the grounds of relevance. I appreciate
No,
that, Chris.
I am not instructing her only on the grounds of relevance. What I said,
Right?
and if you're listening like you did not listen with regard to the previous order by the judge,
Uh-huh.
that there's an outstanding motion for protective order that has not been ruled on.
Sure.
And that, if it is granted, would cover this issue.
You're absolutely wrong, but again,
And so
you're
I-
instructing her not to
I'm
answer, and you'll have to
instructing her
answer for those consequences. Okay. So, let's be clear, do you know why Jackie Mann is on leave?
That is a client,
And again,
attorney-client privilege.
I've instructed her not to answer. If in fact an attorney, such as a city attorney, is involved in the Dr. Mann issue, it's also an attorney-client privilege issue, and I'm instructing her not to answer that as well.
Okay. So, I want to be clear, you're refusing to answer whether or not you're aware of why Jackie Mann is out. Is that true?
All of that information is attorney-client privilege.
Okay. My question isn't whether or not it's privilege. I asked that question. My question is whether or not you're refusing to answer my question.
I'm instructing her not to answer based on attorney-client privilege and the pendency of a protective order, as well as relevance.
I appreciate that. I still need your answer, Marva.
Just tell me you're not going to answer.
I'm not answering.
Okay. So I'm going to read this email out from Mr. Chasen to Dr. Mann. It says, I have blind copied board members in accordance with district policy. I have attached my exit survey for their review. Did you receive Mr. Fermin's exit survey?
Yes,
Okay. And you read it?
yes.
Okay. What action, if any, did you take after reading this exit survey by Mr. Fermin?
After reading this, well, we never saw him again.
Okay. Did you ever attempt to see him after this?
No,
No, okay. And that was a choice that you made, right?
yes,
Okay, why did you make that choice?
because typically these issues are handled by the district attorney's office, and that's what they're hired to do,
Okay.
to take care of.
So I'm going to read here from this document. It's entitled, Why Am I Leaving? Here's this paragraph. It says, I am leaving my position
You
because...
want to identify what paragraph you're reading from, like page and paragraph, please?
You're interrupting, Chris, but I'd be happy to do
Well,
that.
we're trying to find out
It's
where you're
the
reading
second paragraph. The headline there is Why I'm Leaving. Are you able to see that?
Yes,
Okay. Moving on, it says, I am leaving my position because of the poor leadership and flawed philosophical approach of the superintendent that is allowing dysfunction and a culture of fear and toxicity to thrive. The superintendent has allowed the organization to fall into a state of confusion and chaos. There does not appear to be any particular concern for the strategic direction of the district or for the success of the staff as a whole. Most staff are frustrated with the lack of direction and the lack of effort to change. The COVID-19 pandemic has only magnified the effects of poor leadership and the inattention to the health of the organization. Did I read that right?
yes,
Okay. And when you read that, did you give Mr. Posley a raise after having read that?
Check the form questions, broad and vague. Go ahead and answer if you can.
I'm not sure of the dates. I know that early on my tenure on the board, we did.
Okay.
I don't know if it's before this.
Okay. So, do you believe Mr. Fermin when he wrote that paragraph there?
Check the form questions, broad and vague also calls for speculation on the part of this witness. Go ahead and answer if you can.
It wasn't up to me at this point.
Sure. My question wasn't whether it was up to you. My question was whether you believed it or not. Did you believe it?
Same objections, broad and vague, calls for speculation on the part of this witness as to the veracity of Mr. Fermin. But go ahead and answer if you can.
I don't think my answer is important one way or the other.
I'll keep that in mind, but you still need to answer. So can you please tell me whether or not you believe Mr. Fermin when he wrote this, and you read it?
When you wrote that first paragraph,
Sure. This paragraph, that's what we're talking about.
again, same objections, answer the best you can. Calls for speculation, broad and vague, speculating on the truth or veracity of another individual, which is improper character evidence, but go ahead and answer if you can.
I would say that's simply his opinion.
Okay, and what, the question isn't what it is. The question is what significance or what veracity you placed on that. Did you believe him to be lying at this time?
Check the form of questions. Broad and vague also calls for improper character evidence. I'm instructed to not answer this question at this point in time. This is part of the protective order that we've got out there. Also, it's improper character evidence. So I'm instructed not to answer this question at this time.
Do you, what email do you use to conduct board business?
I don't understand the question.
Do you know what the email address is?
Yes.
Okay, good. So moving on from that, you are aware that when somebody sends an email, there is an email address associated with the email that's sent, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you're also aware that if somebody wants to send you an email, they would send that to a particular address, correct?
Yes.
Okay, with that in mind, what email address do you use, or email addresses do you use when performing government business?
My district email address.
Do you use any other ones?
No,
Okay, and that's never?
never.
Okay, and how about telephone numbers?
Same thing.
And you never use any other,
Oh, people can call me, but I tell them, use the business.
okay, every time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now, some people do send it, and the vice versa happens.
Now, do you know who Matt Chasen is?
Yes.
Okay, who's Matt Chasen?
He's over in the Office of Accountability.
And has Mr. Chasen ever made any reports to you?
Not directly.
Okay, how about indirectly?
Well, yes, he reports to the board.
Okay, and you're a member of that board?
Yes.
Okay, and so how would that be indirect?
What?
How would Mr. Chasen reporting to the board be an indirect report to you?
Oh, your question was as though, did he report to me directly? The answer is no.
Okay, so he reported to you as the president of the board. Fair?
And his presentations to the board, yes.
Okay, and some of his presentations include the whistleblower reports, for lack of a better word, right?
I don't know exactly what you mean by that. The board gets them, but not without attorney.
When you say gets M, what do you mean by M?
What I mean is that he must report to the board, and the information that is not made public, which is that's standard procedure, not to make personal information public. It is done with the city attorney's office.
Okay. And do you believe that there's always a city attorney there when he's making those reports?
I would say yes.
Okay, and is the city attorney participating in the advice and counsel at that time?
That's what they're for, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Chasen, just let me understand this. Mr. Chasen's giving a report to you on whistleblowers, okay? During that time, is there is that city attorney making comments?
Check the form questions, broad and vague, compound, and fit incomprehensible, but go ahead and answer if you can.
I would say not necessarily they're there to advise us.
Okay. So, they're in the room, they're witnessing the report from Matt Chasen to you, but they're not necessarily advising while Mr. Chasen's giving the report. Is that fair?
I'm going to object to the form question. Mischaracterizing her testimony. She said that they're there to advise the board.
Thank you for that testimony. I'm asking you the question here.
Misconstruing her testimony and asking her a question about it. That's improper.
Okay.